Have you ever stopped to think about all the electronic gadgets you use every single day? Well, they all work because of a single, surprisingly simple rule that helps us tame the wild force of electricity. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on that secret, Ohm's law. I mean, seriously, electricity is all around us. The device you're watching this on, the lights in your room, it's all running on raw, invisible power. So how in the world do we control it so precisely? How do we stop our phones from, just frying or our light bulbs from popping?
Well, it turns out the answer goes all the way back to 1827 and a German physicist named Georg Simon Ohm. He figured out this really fundamental relationship between the key players in electricity, and that one discovery is pretty much the reason our entire modern world can exist.
All right, so to really get his law, we first need to meet the three main characters in our little electrical story. That's voltage, current, and resistance. Let's break down what each one actually is. So, first up, we've got voltage, which we represent with the letter V. This is basically the electrical pressure in a circuit. I want you to just think of it as the push. It's the force that gets the electricity moving to begin with. Pretty simple, right? No push, no go.
Okay, next up is current, represented by the letter I. Now, if voltage is the push, then current is what actually happens because of that push. It's the flow itself, the real movement of that electrical charge through the wires. It's the stuff that's actually on the move.
And finally, we have resistance, or R. Every good story needs a little conflict, right? Well, resistance is that opposition. It's how much a material fights back against the flow of current. It's the force that's basically yelling, "Whoa, slow down there."
So we have the push, the flow, and the opposition holding it back. And here's the magic. What George Ohm discovered is the beautifully simple equation that ties them all together. Voltage equals current times resistance. That's it. That's the law. And what it means is that for most things, electricity is no longer a mystery. If you know any two of these, you can figure out the third. Every single time.
Now, I know these concepts can feel a little, abstract. I get it. So to make this all feel really concrete, let's use an analogy. Let's imagine this whole thing not with electricity, but with something we all understand. Water flowing through a pipe. The way this lines up is, it's almost perfect. Voltage, that electrical push, is just like the water pressure. The more pressure, the more push. Current, the flow of electricity, is like the flow rate of the water. And resistance, that's just the width of the pipe. A big, wide pipe has low resistance. Water gushes right through. But a skinny little pipe, that has high resistance, and it's going to choke that flow way down, no matter how much pressure you've got. You can kind of feel how they all work together, can't you? Okay, cool theory, right? But what's the point? Why should you and I really care about this little formula? Well, let's take a look at how it gets put to work in the real world, because this is where it gets interesting. I mean, it is literally everywhere. Engineers are using it to design the super complex circuits inside our phones and gadgets. Hobbyists use it to figure out exactly the right resistor to use so a little LED light gets just enough juice to glow, but not so much that it burns out. And electricians, they rely on it to make sure the wiring in your house is safe and can handle everything you plug into it. Without Ohm's law, building electronics would be nothing more than dangerous guesswork.
Let's do a quick calculation, just like an engineer would. Let's imagine we have a simple circuit. The power source is giving us 12 volts of push. And in that circuit, there's a component that has 6 ohms of opposition, or resistance. So here's the critical question for the engineer. How much current is actually going to flow through there? Getting this right is everything. It determines whether the device works or not. So, what do you think? Based on what we've just talked about, can you figure it out?
Okay, let's walk through it together. We start with our formula, V equals I times R. But we're looking for the current, which is I. So we just do a little bit of simple algebra and rearrange the formula to be I equals V divided by R. Now all we have to do is plug in our numbers. That's 12 volts divided by 6 ohms. And the answer is 2 amps. 2 amps of current will flow through that circuit. Now for an engineer, that number isn't just an answer on a test. That number is everything. It tells them how thick the wires need to be, what other components to use, and it's basically the only thing standing between a perfectly working device and a sad little puff of smoke. So let's just pause for a second and think about what this means. By understanding this one simple relationship, you've just taken the single most important first step into the entire world of electronics. It might seem almost too simple, but it's like this quote says, Ohm's law may be simple, but it's the backbone of electrical science. It really is the starting point for everything else that comes after. So really, what you've learned here isn't just a fact or an answer to a problem, it's a tool. It's the key that starts to unlock all the technology that surrounds us, and it gives you the power to actually understand how it all works. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If a rule this elegant can govern something as complex and powerful as electricity, what other simple